It obviously gives me great pleasure today to host the first meeting of one of our faculty seminars that Boise is running in conjunction, co-hosted by the Center for Christian Jewish Learning under the able leadership of Ruth Langer. Obviously, our discussion today is teaching the first generation college student at Boston College. I think I'm hosting it, but I think our three experts are going to be the people who will guide our discussion. Yvonne McBarnett is the program director of BC's famed Montserrat Coalition, which I've heard so much about. So it's nothing but good things, which is at Boston College deeply suspicious, I always say. Rossanna Contreras-Godfrey is the director of BC's highly successful Learning to Learn program. And Andy Petigny is the associate director of BC's Theo Bauman Ahana and Intercultural Center. I thought with their permission, I think the way I'd like to do this is have the three of them talk about what their respective centers and programs do. And also in the process of that, talk about challenges, the most important challenges that our first generation college students have and face at Boston College. And then we would open it up to conversations among all of us. I thought we would try to go for 65 minutes. When I took over the Boise Center, the rule was, it was the Google rule, no meetings more than 60 minutes. And so I tried to institute having everybody stand up during the meeting, but they wouldn't buy that. So we'll try to get this going. And Con Avery, do you want to?
Yeah, Con Avery, just hello all. Just a quick question, because I know a lot of colleagues were really interested in this topic and couldn't be here. I may be misremembering, but I thought I read something about how this would be recorded for others.
This is being recorded. Thank you for bringing that up.
It is being recorded. Okay, sorry. Then I just wanted to make sure that we all knew that.
My machine would not cooperate with that. So it's sort of, so Yvonne, Rossanna, Andy, do you have a pecking order? How do you want to, how would you like to do this?
Yes, we do have a pecking order. Thank you.
You're putty in your hands. Okay, good.
Awesome. Well, welcome again. My name is Rossanna Contreras-Godfrey, and I'm the director of the Learning to Learn program. We like to think of ourselves as the institutional voice for first generation, low income and underrepresented students. We foster and support the intellectual, personal, and holistic formation of students as they realize their full potential, navigate the academic and social landscape of college life, and attain their life goals and graduate. Under this mantra or this mission, we run two programs that are actually federally funded under what we call as TRIO programs. And basically it is funded through the US Department of Education. And every 5 years, I have the honor of writing a very competitive grant, which is a national competition to attain funding for these grants. The 5-year total is around $1.5 million. The two grants are Student Support Services and the Ronald E. McNair Post-Baccalaureate Scholars Program. Each of them focus on really pushing the educational pipeline for students of first generation backgrounds and low income students. And through this TRIO umbrella, these programs run the gamut from from middle school up until actually adult services that some programs provide. We are in the college, of course, realm. And so within these programs, our focus is around retention and graduation. And with the McNair program in particular, we also are interested in pushing students to pursue graduate education with the goal of increasing the number of students from these backgrounds that attain a doctoral degree. Through these programs, we offer a variety of services, one being academic advising and support, financial literacy, our BC First College Transition Program, a living and learning community that started last year, and the applications of the learning theory. And I'll go a little bit into some of these programs, which are some of our key programming at the university. With the BC First College Transition Program in particular, we invite recently accepted BC students to join us on campus for 2 weeks prior to the pandemic. We would host them here at the university and expose them to the campus in a more intimate way, and also to build community among peers like themselves. We teach them, invite offices such as Montserrat and BAIC to share their resources, and others such as financial aid, and also invite parents who are often the ones that do not know how to navigate the college experience for students, and provide them also with some information. And we become, for these students, a point of contact and a point person that helps them navigate those first, critical 4 weeks, but beyond. We really support our students from the beginning until graduation. And a special caveat for our federal program is that we can offer our students $1,000 grant for those that successfully graduate. And the grant is really about retaining students in these early stages of their college career, that often for some students, they find challenging because they are on hidden costs that they did not plan for, such as books or travel or food. So that $1,000 can allow them to take care of some of those hidden expenses. You often wonder, who is this first generation student, right? And so for us, that has been a question that a lot of people are challenged with. The first generation student, though, for us at BC and for my office in particular, is someone whose parent has not completed a 4-year baccalaureate degree. They are often low income, and they are racially diverse. Sometimes, we do have first generation students that come from higher income brackets, but that's often not necessarily the norm. So with the first generation label, sometimes people qualify themselves as first generation. As for me, I'm an immigrant from the Dominican Republic. I could say I'm first generation immigrant, but that does not qualify me to be a participant of my program under the mantra or the definition that we have in our program. So there's, there are distinctions around first generation, and some universities do adopt different definitions for first generation students and students that they might serve. And again, at BC and in my office, we do use your parent does not have a 4-year degree. A parent could have maybe a community college degree, and they could qualify for my services. So just as a point of clarification around how people might define a first generation college student. When you think about the challenges of being a first gen student, of course, there are many. And I like to think that I like to look at it more on an asset-based lens. First generation college students really have a lot of great qualities and contributions that they can make at Boston College. However, due to their lack of knowledge, mostly, they are challenged sometimes by time management, finances, because sometimes they have to work, as well as, go to school. Oftentimes at BC in particular, imposter syndrome is something that students deal with a lot. They feel like they don't belong at the university, that, they got in because where they live, their color, their race or ethnicity, or sometimes that in the academic realm, that they are not performing to the standards that they often have been used to within the high school experience, meaning they are challenged, they're not getting those A's and B's anymore. And then they feel that, do I really belong here? There are a lot of academic pressures as well, aside from that. There's also culture shock, excuse me. I can remember, I also am a BC undergrad grad alum, and I came from the North Shore of Boston. And when I came to Boston College campus, I was very much shocked by the culture. I grew up in a very low to middle income community, and it was very racially diverse. But when I came to BC, it really was an experience that even now our students experience often. As I move on, I want to be able to be mindful of time. And again, so basically last year, as I mentioned, we developed a learning and living community for first generation students, which is housed in the Newton campus. And again, we wanted to bring another experience for these students within the academic year so that they can live in part within their group of students, people that have similar experiences with their own identity of first gen, and can have conversations around the challenges, but also how to solve those challenges and be successful. And we provide a number of opportunities for students to be able to connect again to the campus and to be able to manage, the pathway and, the ability for them to achieve that lifelong goal that they're here for. And the one important thing that I would like people to remember is that these students are not only here for themselves, but they're here for their families. So when they struggle in any area of college life, it really is something that they often are challenged by and suffer through. And we need to help them figure that out because the stakes for them are really high. It's not just an individual, but it's their community and their family. I will leave it at that so that my other colleagues can share their own experiences. And I'll leave it for questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosanna. I appreciate that presentation. You did a great job. And first, yes, absolutely. And I want to thank Mark and your team for inviting us in to share our different unique offices that we have on campus. And I know it's lunchtime, so if you want to eat, I'm not going to judge you. So you can eat while we're sharing and explaining our offices to you this afternoon. So welcome to Montserrat Coalition University Mission and Ministry. And my name again is Yvonne McBarnett, and also AKA Miss Smiley. So if you've heard that name for any students that you've been around, it would be me. So you're so, this is a good day for you because you get to meet Miss Smiley today on this Zoom call. So here I am, all the students have been sharing. This Miss Smiley, here she is. So it's a pleasure to be with you today. And I'm going to take you on a ride, Montserrat Coalition. So I'm going to give you a little overview beyond finance. So my presentation today is I'm going to talk a little bit beyond financial aid, the overview of Montserrat program. Then we'll have conversation at the end. And the questions that I'll leave hopefully in your minds is how do we support the students with the greatest financial need and after they enroll at Boston College, and how can you help? So welcome to Montserrat. So Montserrat office aims to assist students at the highest level of financial need to participate and experience in Jesuit education. Montserrat provides a welcoming space and a confidential environment for all students to seek assistance, guidance, and mentorship. By facilitating the participation of university formation programs, we encourage the students to pursue their spiritual, social, and intellectual development. We are committed to diversity, inclusion, and equity. So our mission in this office is to provide the students access and support in all areas of student life, not incorporated in the financial aid package. We strive to guide the students in fulfilling the Jesuit initiative holistically. So you ask the question, in what ways do you help our students? Intellectually, so that would mean internships. So a lot of our students do get granted with internships, and we provide T-passes for them to travel to and from their internships. So we would have them get a T-pass, and we would load that T card, a Charlie card, if you will, for them, enabling them to transport back and forth. We also have a laptop program. We have a textbook lending program, and we have work study assistance. So the textbook lending program is something that we've done over the years. So we have a library in our office currently that stores over 1,500 books. And right now we're in the process, my staff, which is only myself. I have an assistant director, Jeremiah Jefferson, and a GA, Julia Erdogan. She is in the theology STEM program. And I have 5 student workers. And we're providing resources for 2,088 students. And I will give you a breakdown in just a moment. And right now we're in the process of meeting the students virtually. And we did this last year during the pandemic, and we realized that we even doubled our numbers because we're able to meet them where they are. Some students are in the cafeteria, they're going between their classes, and it's so efficient because they can just pop open their laptop and we're able to give them the resources. This afternoon, I had, right before this meeting, a student walks in and I said, sweetie, we're going to do this virtually. She goes, no, but I just wanted to see you and give you a hug. I said, no hugs right now. You got to go in the next room and we're going to do our call. So they're all excited to be back on campus, but then we have to also let them know at this point, we just want to get you and get your books and you can be on your way. So we have a Frontier Fellowship internship research assistant. So the students that are chosen, they apply for this research fellowship, and they have to be monitored by a faculty on campus. And that faculty takes them through and guides them and mentors them throughout the whole entire time. And we're funded with an anonymous donor from the University Advancement, and they've given us a lot of money. Just for example, we were able to give a student that traveled to Africa to do the research on the disparities between the African healthcare and American healthcare. And we gave her about $7,000, and that included the travel, her research, the interviews, the food, and the flight. So that was good. Spiritually, how do we help them spiritually? The retreat cost reduction, service immersion trips. We're not sure how many trips are traveling this year, but if a student wants to go on a service immersion trip, they would reach out to us and we can provide with funding for them. It ranges from maybe $250 to $300. So we would help them with that deposit only, and then they would have to work hard to raise the other remaining funds. Socially, tickets to plays on campus. One of the biggest things that we have for all of our students, which we worked very hard with the athletics department this year through the COVID. And you're sitting home, you figured, okay, we probably can't do much, but we were working very hard. And one of the reasons why I say that, and I'm so excited about it, the years prior to COVID, the students would come in and have to get a physical ticket. Now, put in your mind, over 300, 400 students walking into a house, 36 College Road, if you're familiar with Coro, and standing in line to get a physical ticket. That took a lot out of us. So we met with the athletics department. We said, please, if we can work another way to get these students the tickets without physically touching anything, and especially now with the COVID, how can we make this possible? And to say the least, I have to say we were so pleased to find out after we met with them a couple of times that now the students have they're able to get the ticket electronically on their phone. So when they walk into the gate, they just show their phones and they're in. And we have gotten really high praises from our students. And they said, Ms. Smiley, this is the best year ever because now it's more efficient for us. We don't have to stand in line. Even though we were grateful, that was a lot coming up all these stairs. And I was like, really, guys? But no, I understand where they were coming from. And I'm so excited for them now that they can just go into the line with their phones. And as we know, everything is technology now. Everything is on our phone. So it does make it easier and more efficient. Supportively, we mentor our students one-on-one. We don't really advise. If they ask, we do, because my colleagues here that are with me, they do a great job doing that. So too much advising is probably over the top. So I leave it up to my colleagues that are doing that. So one-on-one mentorship, they come in and have conversations with us. If a student has to go home, an emergency travel, or they need personal assistance, grocery cards for our juniors and seniors, we have that. We just made a new name for our closet that we have. And I'll tell you a little bit more about our it's not a pantry, it's Montserrat Community Cupboard. So we have some non-perishable foods that our students, our juniors and seniors can now come in and take advantage of. Moving on. So what do we do? In collaboration with a lot of networks of campus partners, the athletics department, BIC, LTL, campus ministry, of course, CSON, the MCAS, OSI, all of the departments, they support us, enabling us to support the students. And in regards to budget, you're probably saying, well, what kind of budget do you have? Well, we really didn't get a big budget, but I depend on all these other offices to fund me so I can take care of the students. And we also have privy to a gift account that our alumni is also supporting our efforts and endeavors and helping us support our students. We're able to provide many resources because of their support over the years. You asked that important question. How are your students selected? Consideration for Montserrat is based on a student's individual financial need. We currently serve, as I shared, 2,088 students. Students qualify as Montserrat based on federal and institutional guidelines of financial need. The decision is made solely by the Office of Financial Aid. However, we encourage all students facing financial hardships to come in and have a conversation with us. There are many times that a student will come in and say, well, I'm not a Montserrat student, but we just hit a really hard rock in a hard place. And my family, my mom lost a job, my dad lost a job. How can you help? So what we would do, we would have a conversation with Bernie and his staff and find out where does that student, they meet in terms of the cusp of the criteria for Montserrat, if they're eligible or not. And 99% of the times, to be honest, if they're not, I still serve. Jeremiah Jefferson, prior to him being the assistant director here, worked in financial aid. So it's nice that he's here with me because he complements the office. And when students have financial aid questions, they come in and he can serve. So a lot of times if a student comes in, they may not meet the criteria for Montserrat student, but that doesn't stop us from providing what they need. It may be a one-time book, it may be a travel home, or better yet, they may need a book from our library. So I don't turn away any student that comes in for support. A student's financial aid package may change from year to year. However, the student status does not change. In other words, once you're a Montserrat student, your freshman year, you remain a Montserrat student throughout your senior year until you graduate. So let me give you a little bit of the student profile. So the gender, we have 1,174 female. Male, we have 906, not identified 8. Race ethnicity, so we have white Caucasian students, 735, Asian students, 399, Black African American, 281, Hispanic Latino, Latinx, 399, 2 or more races, 168, unknown, 104, Native American and other Pacific Islander, 1, and American Indian or Asian or Alaska Native, we have 1, and that comprises of 2,088 students. And by class year, I'll break it down. 2021, we have 630, 2022, 529, 2023, 508, and 2024, 421. And so just to leave you with a couple of highlights, we don't have a lot of programming, but one signature program that I do appreciate that was started and coined with Kelly Armstrong, who's now the president of Civil Rights Regime, and for those that know. So she, with all the collaborations that we had before she left, this program was birthed, and it's called the Montserrat Dinner Club. So this was designed only for our sophomores. So we would meet with them in the faculty dining room once a month, and we would share meals and share conversations. And we have 13 mentors. We have John Burke, just to give an example. We have Pat Bando. Kwasi is now one of our mentors. So just to give an idea of who we have. And then we have 13 senior mentors, and their job is to help facilitate the conversation with the sophomores. This year, we have just recruited 67 sophomores in the program. And so we're all excited. Not only that, but another signature is we've partnered with Macy's. So Macy's, we've partnered with them, and we have it's called Dress for Success. So Macy's has given us a fund for over $25,000, and each student will get a stipend. Last year, even though we was Zooming for the whole entire time, each student received $300. And our rep sat with them, each of the students, which we had 42 last year, sat with every individual student and shopped with them. And they all walked away with a suit, a coat, shoes, bag, whatever you need to be successful in your new job, your first job. That was her job. And that was very successful. This year, we're going to be in person in the faculty dining room, and we're looking forward to, again, partnering with Macy's. The other highlight that we have is a cross-current seminar, and that is taught by Bert Howell, for those of you may know him, and it's thinking about economic inequality in college student life. And this is a 1-credit course designed by Bert, and it's really designed also to help the Montreat students to be in a space just to have conversation about their challenges here in Boston College. And lastly, we have a BC Clean. So when I talked about earlier the Montserrat Community Cupboard, we've partnered with ResLife, Jesse Graff, and at the end of the summer, they collect non-perishable foods. We were able to go in and help, and all of the seniors that left all of that food behind, which was not outdated, which was good, we were able to pack our little cupboard and now give it back to our students. And not only that, we also collect microwaves and fridges, mini fridges that are rehabbed and cleaned up and kept over the summer for our new freshmen that are coming in that have come from afar and may not be able to afford buying a new refrigerator or a microwave. So we're able to give those away. We gave out over 55 microwaves and 55 fridges this year. So the numbers went up. So we were really happy about that success. And lastly, this program, which was started by a student, a Montserrat student, Marina Pastrana, it was also mirrored in Notre Dame, Tufts, and MIT. And I had the privilege to present our office and what we did to these universities. And now they have a little program similar to what we have here. And lastly, I just want to share with you that, one important difference is a sense of well-being. People who have found their voice, shared their story, and reaffirmed their values often find a sense of peace and hopefulness that they did not have before. So the goal of this program is to eliminate the real and perceived barriers so that students can pursue their spiritual, social, and intellectual development. And our vision is to inspire and empower our students by providing effective resources. And I have to say, it's been 7 years for me here, and I don't regret coming on board to advocate for our students that belong not only to Montserrat, but to Learning to Learn in the Thea Bowman Ahana Intercultural Center. And the last question, and what I want to leave with you is, how can you help? If you find or hear about a student that may be struggling and may not have all the resources in their classroom, they may be sitting there not having a book. You may just want to reach out to them and say, wait a minute, how come you don't have a book? You know what? There's a person that I want to connect you with, Miss Yvonne McBarnett, but her also, AKA Miss Smiley. Why don't you send her an email? And trust me, I'll take it from there. And it's not about just our offices. We all need to be a part of making sure that these students are successful. It takes each of us to make a difference for all of us. And thank you for listening to me today. It was a pleasure to present what Montserrat does, and I'm hoping that something resonated with you. And by all means, if you have any other further questions, feel free to email me. And now, without any further ado, I want to turn it over to my handsome colleague, Andy Petigny.
Thank you, Ms. Smiley. Thank you, Rossanna, for your presentations, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us. So I'll just kind of go over a little bit in terms of the Thea Bowman Ahana Intercultural Center, and then also maybe a couple of the issues as well. And so again, my name's Andy Petigny. I'm the Associate Director at the Thea Bowman Ahana Intercultural Center, or BAIC. Currently, we have 5 professional staff. So our director, Father Michael Davidson. We have 4 other professional staff, and in the process of hopefully hiring someone within the next couple of months. Our mission is basically promote equity, build community, and support opportunity. And so to read it out loud, it's to support the undergraduate community with a particular focus on Ahana, OTE, and multicultural and multiracial students in navigating college life. We strive to promote a welcoming environment that fosters a holistic development. We seek to form students of conscious excellence, competence, and compassion who will make a difference in the world. Our goal is to retain, care for, and graduate our students. And so to that end, we do work with the entire undergraduate population. And so I think One of the myths is that the center is just for AHANA students, but we also have white students in our programs, et cetera. However, we do have a particular focus on students of color, AHANA and OTE students at Boston College. And so one of the main programs, I guess I'll kind of start with, is our OTE program. I would probably call that our flagship program. It's a summer transition program. Students are on campus for 7 weeks. It's basically like operating a school in the summer. We hire English faculty, math faculty, tutors, writing fellows. We have someone that teaches a skills course, someone that teaches a communication seminar. Students go on trips, students have study hall, they attend the classes, et cetera. So it's pretty intense. We work closely with admissions for those students to come to BC, and upon completion of the program, then they matriculate into the fall. And so we usually get around anywhere from 40 to 45 students every summer, and kind of work with them throughout the academic year up until graduation. The contract, if you will, is that they meet with us at least 3 times a semester, but then obviously as often as they need. And so that's probably one of our main things. Probably related to that, I would say, is college counseling. And so while students may have an academic advisor based on their course or discipline, based on their last name, every AHANA student has a BIC advisor. And so if there are issues they might want to discuss that maybe they don't feel comfortable with in terms of their advisor, they can come in and speak with one of us, or just in general, it's more of a holistic approach. And so just understanding what pressures might be at home, what are they dealing with in terms of responsibilities and things like that. And so we do a lot of that, as well as alumni who have graduated BC that want to give back. And so they may contact our office and say, hey, do you have any students in X, Y, and Z? And so we're able to kind of communicate that information to students as well. I would say kind of, in addition, we have the mission statement, the programs, et cetera. I think ultimately we want students to feel as though this is a home away from home. And that's kind of one of the things that we say. And so I think to that end, we do have space. So if you envision a predominantly white university, students of color probably have very few spaces where they feel, like this is my home, et cetera, et cetera. And so we have a conference room and study area where students can study and fellowship. We have a student lounge in our space. We're located on the 4th floor of Maloney Hall. So kind of midway between particularly students who might be on lower that's going to middle campus for classes. We're right off the elevators and they can pop in. We have snacks right there, so they can come in, grab snacks, meet with their advisor, et cetera, and then go off to class. So we have the lounge, we have the study space that also doubles as a conference room. We have a dedicated quiet study space. And so if this particular area gets a little too loud, they can go to the dedicated quiet study space. And then again, I mentioned the college counseling. We also have events, to bring people together. I think one of the biggest things, again, feeling like either you may not, my colleagues mentioned either imposter syndrome or maybe you don't belong. And so that sense of community is really, really important. And so we have events called the Taste of BIC, where we have different cuisines representing different cultures. Students come in, and so not only do they get the food, but hopefully they get to meet some other students. I think one of the things that's somewhat amazing to me is that students don't really communicate in classes. So for example, I'll have 2 students in our space. I'll say, oh, do you know this person? Do you know that? And they'll just kind of look at each other and go, oh, I think you're in my econ class. And I'm like, that would have been the first thing I would have done first week of school. I would have went up to another student and say, hey, I see we're in the same class, et cetera. So I don't know if that's part of the competitive nature of Boston College. I can't really explain it, but that is a phenomenon that seems to happen. And so one of the things we try to do is see if we can bridge that gap. We also have a Sister Thea's Closet. So we try to provide students fill out a form. They can get toiletries, soap, toothpaste, toothbrushes, deodorant, things like that. We also have a laptop loan program. Students can also get some basic school supplies as well, notebooks, pens, and things like that. So we definitely do that. In terms of additional opportunities, there's a service and immersion trip twice a year to Jamaica, where students go and serve, live in solidarity with the people of Jamaica, and learn about some of the economic and social issues that they deal with. We have a civil rights immersion trip where students go to several cities down south and learn about the civil rights movement and different things that they can do. We work with students to form committees, again, so they can meet each other, as well as to help promote some of the ethnic heritage months. And so we help contribute to the Hispanic Heritage Month, which is this month now, September 15th through October 15th. We just had our opening celebration this week. It was fantastic. We also do Native American Heritage Month in November, Black History Month in February, and then we celebrate Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month in April because students are gone in May when it's normally celebrated. And so we usually do an opening ceremony for that and try to support other events. And then towards the end of the month, we might do a Taste of BIC where they just come to the center, grab a plate, and then go and that sort of thing. But that's really important as well, just recognizing their culture, their experiences, and again, another form of community. A few years ago, we started doing football tailgates. So again, trying to give them spaces on game days where they feel like they belong. So you can imagine already at a predominantly white institution, and then you bring in alums and other people, and then where do they go? Combine the alcohol. And so a lot of things that we don't want to have happens to students on game day. So we started providing the tailgates where we provide burgers, hot dogs, and things like that. And again, a space where students feel comfortable, they can hang out. We have a mentoring program where students are matched with faculty or staff. So if any of you are not mentors and would like to get closer to one of our students and guide and mentor, we have the Maze Mentorship Program where students are matched with faculty and staff all 4 years. That's a great program as well. There's a couple of different events integrated, but ultimately it's so students can kind of bounce ideas off of their mentor and what's the best course of action and things like that. We have a group of students, a leadership program called the Bowman Advocates for Inclusive Culture, or Bowman Advocates. They actually go out and do cultural competency workshops and things on inclusivity. And so this is the second year we're presenting to all first-year students on bias, on systemic racism, and what's their role in kind of addressing some of these issues or interrupting bias as it happens. I think lately we found that not only do students feel like, well, if it's not me as part of the target group, then maybe I don't have a right to say anything. But what's happening is by them not saying anything, it's basically perpetuating the systems that are in place at BC. So really trying to empower students who don't identify as part of that marginalized group to be more active allies. The Bowman Advocates also facilitate conversations in the spring called Dialogues on Race, and we have different sections of that. So race in the media, healthcare, education, government, etc. We also have a conference called the Brave Conference. We had it twice last year. This spring, we're only going to have it once. And so that'll be the weekend of the MLK holiday. And so we invite all students to do that. Again, community, and also learn some of these issues. Specifically for first year HANA and multiracial students, we have the Ride Retreat, of which when Ms. Smiley worked in our office, she actually started that program. But the Ride Retreat is the racial identity development experience. So we work with the Institute for the Study and Promotion of Race and Culture for the curriculum. Students go off campus and actually learn how racial identity is formed, its impact, so they have a better understanding of, no, you're not crazy, like this is really happening type of thing. So that's a great resource for students. We also have for all class years, the AHANA Summit, where they also go away. We have the Bowman Scholars event where we recognize students with 3.4 GPA or above and make them aware of different opportunities based on that. We have a couple leadership programs, one for men, one for women. So AHANA Men Leadership Program, then Sister Thea's Ladies Leadership Program. And that's again on academics and leadership and just trying to develop their personal skills and professional development in those areas as well. And so lastly, I'll say probably, again, open to all undergraduates. I would say that, the other big program that we also provide is the summer tuition remission. So if students were to underload, failed a course, withdrew from a class, switch the major too late, we can help provide the classes in the summer to make sure students can stay on track. As you can imagine, summer classes being close to $3,000. If you get off track, it's really easy to then decide, you know what, I'm going to go to my community college next year. So that's really big for us, again, making sure that they're able to stay here and then ultimately graduate. And then just real quickly, I think in terms of just general issues, we mentioned imposter syndrome, some of the financial challenges, whether it be through classes, whether it through balancing them needing to work and then their academic and social responsibilities at the college. Again, fitting in, finding their people. So, that can be a challenge from residence halls to classes to social spaces and clubs. racial and bias motivated events. So I'm sure you've heard. I think every year something happens on the MLE floor in residence life. And also students have expressed kind of faculty needing to be trained in some of these. I think there was a recent letter that you might have seen from a faculty member that really has the students talking. And so that's a concern because it helps to kind of perpetuate some of the systems that the students are referencing. So that's an issue. Help seeking potential could be an issue. Students are very independent. They're very accomplished. And so if you kind of layer that with the environment and then not feeling a lot of trust, they might say, you know what, I'm just going to try to do this on my own. And so that can be problematic when our offices are here to support them and get them through. And then connected to that, probably some mental health issues and just navigating college and things like that. So ultimately trying to make it a home away from home, supporting them academically, socially, in different areas. And then at the end of the day, making sure they leave with that piece of paper. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosanna, Yvonne, and Andy. I'll just lead off with the questions. I was astonished. For many years, I taught at Fordham University in New York City, which is a much more diverse university in Boston College. And I was astonished by some of the BC culture, like the local way, what's called the BC local way. You all know what the BC local way is. You're walking across campus. The BC local way is somebody's walking across campus and a student is coming toward another student, clearly recognizing him, and the student that's being looked at sort of looks away, like doesn't have to make contact, And there's a lot of jokes about this at BC. It's I think, a very troubling thing. But I guess my question is, when you deal with the students, I was kind of blown away by the fact that I think Yvonne said, you deal with 2,088 students, which is kind of astonishing, How do your students talk about the faculty? I mean, are the faculty part of the problem? Are the faculty part of the solution? Is there a percentage of the faculty that are especially helpful, or do they perceive the faculty as kind of challenges? I mean, any one of you can leap into that one.
I'd say probably so. Just based on my conversations with students. Obviously, it's not all faculty, right? And so certainly you have faculty in AADS or sociology and things like that are familiar with these issues, that are also advisors to students, that are things like that. I know some faculty in history. We're currently working on a project. And let me just say this. So even though some of the issues are between, say, you're at a predominantly white institution and students of color, internally, so they've internalized, the racism and the messaging as well that's happened in the US. So when I walk into spaces, it's not all the AHANA students are all arm in arm as well. Certain environments lend itself to that. So OT is very diverse and they're there for 7 weeks. So obviously they're going to get closer than everything else. And so I say that to say, I'm working with Professor O, Martin Summers, Juan Concepcion, and we want to have an event specifically for AHANA students about the underlying issues within the AHANA community. So anti-Blackness within other communities, anti-Asian, anti-Latinx, et cetera. Because again, all these things aren't happening in a vacuum, right? We tend to internalize certain issues as well. So yeah, I think it's a range. I think the challenge is, faculty aren't, so working in student affairs, we've been reading books, right? White Fragility, CAST, we have speakers, we do workshops, but not everyone are required to do that self-reflection. And so you have a mixed bag. You have a mixed bag. So yeah, but certainly you have faculty as part of courageous conversations and doing things. So it's not all faculty, but there are ones that I'm sure if I mention some names, you might have heard them as well.
If I can add, I mean, I echo Andy's response. Yeah, you're gonna have, people that might be indifferent, people that may not be racially educated or whatnot. But one of the great things within our program is that we have a number of mentorship programs, one through McNair, where you're building a relationship with a faculty member through a research project. And so you then see a different lens of both the faculty and the student. And like Andy mentioned, BAIC has a faculty mentor program. We also have a mentor program that's called McNair Exploratory, where we match students with a faculty member in their area of interest. So again, you connect people with what their interest is, and hopefully that builds a genuine relationship that goes beyond the academic. And so we see that as avenues, at least from our little space here, as avenues where students can actually get to work and know faculty, not only as professors, but also as, allies.
And just to echo from my both colleagues, storytelling for me is impactful. We work in a house, and so this space is very authentic and very transparent, to say the least. And just to share a little story, you had an Asian student, female, that walked in one day and wanted to have conversation. And she said, "Miss Molly, I'm very frustrated." And I says, "Let's sit down and talk about it." And she said one of her professors got upset with her because he could not pronounce her name. And he in turn told her she should find an American name so he can be more comfortable in his class. And she was traumatized by that. So when we talk about, it's not everyone, but then, the insensitivity with the faculty, that sometimes there's this disconnect. And I'm so grateful that the students feel comfortable in coming into our spaces to share their stories, because then when they share with us, then we can share it with you. But that's just one little story that, I needed to share, that these are the kind of challenges that our students are facing.
Thank you very much. Do any of my colleagues have questions or want to make remarks? Ruth, and then Conover.
Yeah, I've had situations numerous times now where I've had some first-gen students who've told me, but usually after they've gotten pretty deep into problems. And I've had other cases where I suspect that they are first-gen students. They clearly don't have all the resources to be doing the work. Usually it's manifesting in writing problems. And I don't understand what I should be doing to open up a conversation when they don't come to office hours. They don't, they're not opening up the conversation, and yet they're clearly in trouble academically. That's what I'm seeing. And what are the mechanisms that get the students to have a private conversation with me? Or as John just put in the text, how do I know who to help?
I'll take an initial stab at this. I think, our students need to be able to trust you. And that might be one of the barriers. We've done some work around office hours where this graduate student at Harvard, he's probably a professor by now, he did his dissertation around, do first generation college students know what office hours mean? What are they for? Because there was a misunderstanding around that the students thought that office hours were that you could not go to the faculty and bother them, because that was their office hours, the hours that they're doing their work. And in fact, even if you were to put something in your syllabus around office hours and what they, the upshot of the study, which I'm kind of butchering a little bit, is that some people did misunderstood what those hours were for, and therefore they didn't feel like they could go to ask for help. And I know that within a certain group of people within the university, in their syllabus, they kind of do a little explanation around office hours and, welcome, this is the time where you and I can, meet and discuss any, pertinent, issues or concerns or what have you, as an invitation to students that potentially might not know your office hours are available to them. One thing. The other thing is that there is hesitation for some students to really understand or wear this badge of first gen. It is for them, sometimes it means that they are deficit, and that has been the language that has been around the first gen identity. Oh, first gen can't, are coming with all of these lack this, they lack this, that. And so that's why when students come to us, we often, are looking and shoring them up and giving them that confidence and confirming that they are amazing people, that they went through high school and they still had to be the translator for their mom and dad when they needed to go to the doctors with them, that they needed to call the electric bill when they were, past due. They bring different sets of skills, soft skills that could be helpful to them as they navigate college. And so I don't know if I answered your full question, but I hope that it gives you a little bit of a background to understand why maybe, it's hard to reach some people.
Great, thank you. Connor, and then John, and then.
And I'll just quickly add, I think one is if you see something, I would approach the student. So, going back to so I know we do progress reports as office. And so if you see something, you could say, hey, I noticed, that something went on this exam. Is everything okay? Can we touch base? And again, understanding your time as well. I mean, the other piece too, you can contact one of the offices. Hey, there's a student, I'm not sure what's going on, but seems like maybe there's a disconnect. We definitely be happy to reach out to that student. If there's something, because sometimes there's underlying issues, but when people are grading on participation and things like that, that might negatively impact the student. And so I think even being transparent, if the student is the only one in the class, whatever identity is it, right? The only woman, the only person of color, the only person with a disability, the only person of this religion, I might bring that up, like how, because everyone else has noticed it, right? And everyone else is kind of looking over. So I might say, so how are you feeling? If I say something, let me know. So I would just try to be as open and transparent as possible, reach out to the student. And if that's an issue, then definitely refer them to us. We definitely tell them to go to office hours though. So you should know, like, go meet your professors, let them make sure they know who you are and that sort of thing.
Great, Conevery, and then John, and then Margarita.
Hey, I'm Conevery from history, so I'm so excited to hear that my colleagues, we're getting shout out. Thank you all so very much for sharing expertise. It's so interesting to hear the fuller background about stuff I hear a little bit about through my students. So I was floored, Ms. Smiley, by two numbers that you gave us. One is that like 29% of the undergrads here get services through Montserrat. I don't know what number I would have guessed, nothing close to that high. How does that impact the kind of, I don't know, can you talk a little bit more about what that means, that, over a quarter, close to a third of students could receive services through y'all? And also the numbers, the disproportionate female numbers that was presenting your number about women. You have so many more women students than men, if I'm remembering that correctly. Can you talk, and I'm wondering about what that says about high school and girls and boys, but can you all talk a little bit about any of that, the demographics of the folks you're seeing, or the numbers of the people you're seeing, and how those of us who are on the teaching faculty can, can respond to those numbers?
And even though that number is large, we don't see all of them. And unfortunately, we don't, because a lot of students, as I'm sure one of my colleagues just shared, there's this baggage they're walking around with, and they don't want to be identified as such, HUNA students, or the first gen, I would say even first gen students. And so that number, we wish they would come into the office, but they don't. But we do send out information and informing them that they are welcome to take advantage of our resources. And those numbers, and of course, I was also floored when Bernie sends us those numbers. We sit there and we're saying, oh my gosh, all these females, all these males, and how they figure that all out. It's again, my wheels are always turning to see the numbers of students that we have on campus that are being served by this little office. But I have to say that the funding that we receive, thank God, through the alumni, through the alumni, and then especially now that this family weekend is happening with Pops on the Heights, there's a lot of funding funneling through there as well that we receive through the gifts. So we're able to support these students. And again, I wish we could, as I'm sure my colleagues would say, these students would come into our offices, but unfortunately they don't, because again, they don't want to be, they're already marginalized. So it's kind of hard to be identified as such. And those numbers, again, they change every year, they don't decrease, they get higher. So that's something to think about.
John,
I hope I did answer that question in, so many words.
John, you mentioned a while back on chat that this was your question as well about how to.
Yeah, I think, thank you for the answer. I feel the tip about making office hours much more clear, that's a really good point, which I hadn't really thought about, but I because I just sort of assumed that everyone knew what office hours were. But it does make a lot of sense because I don't have a lot of people come, and I think that a lot of them do stay away just because they feel like uncomfortable, like interrupting me. And it also might be a little weird coming back after so long where office hours wasn't anything that was in person. It might be a little strange for them. I mean, I just had this issue last semester that you were reminding me of. When I had this student, I don't know if he was first generation or not. But he was on the football team. And so he spent a lot of time in the athletic department. And I didn't realize till halfway through the semester that he didn't have a computer. He was trying to do everything either on his phone or through whenever he was at the athletic center, he was using the computers there. But, I was assigning a lot of writing to do. And it just didn't really occur to me that somebody would be trying to do it entirely on their phone. That would make it much, much harder to do. And I was thinking, this kid, there's no way he would have ever said anything at the beginning of the semester. And so I just didn't really know, like, how am I supposed to find these people if they're not the sort of people that are going to come up to me at the beginning and say, okay, I'm a little lost. I need to run down with you how I'm going to finish these assignments and stuff. And obviously they're not going to volunteer on the early class survey. I'm a first generation college student and I need extra help. So I just wonder if there's anything else I can be doing to try to find those people, or to make sure that those people know that I'm willing to work with them on issues like that come up.
Well, I'll just hop in real quick and say, if you say it just like that, I think that would have a tremendous impact, right? So hey, I have office hours. So if you're struggling, if you feel like you don't know what's going on, that's why I'm here, I think is big. And then really quickly, a couple things I've heard. So in addition to all those other issues, a lot of times students work. And so I've heard, so if the faculty person, if their office hours are really rigid, that makes it a challenge. So it's like, oh man, so again, if I'm depending, if I need to provide, I need to make money, I have to work. So are you willing to move the office hours? That's one thing. And so that might be something for you to mention, hey, these are the office hours, but if you need to work, if you're this and that, send me an email. I can meet you. That'll open the door, because again, they may not know. They just figure, well, I can't come to the office hours, so that's a wrap. And then the last thing I've heard from students is that some of the office hours are more group oriented. And so when you walk in and you have an issue and you already feel a certain way, and now you have to say it in front of the whole class again, that's probably what prevented them from speaking up the first time. And so maybe up until they start feeling more comfortable to come to the group work, you might throw out. And again, I understand everyone's time, but these might be some strategies. So, hey, if you feel as though you need to meet with me one-on-one, send me your availability, and then they'll do, and then you can kind of get, oh, you know what? Other students have brought this up. You can come to the group sessions. Sometimes they think they're the only ones having a problem and the whole class is struggling with the same thing, but they're thinking, oh, I'm the only one that doesn't understand this and that sort of. So that's some of the psychology that they have. So those could be just being more welcoming in your intro, maybe offering group ones, or being able to flex a little bit depending on schedule.
And just as a disclosure, John, I've heard other professors and faculty put in their syllabus, if you need extra assistance with books or anything else, put the word Montserrat in there.
Mm-hmm.
And they can just figure it out. Nobody has to know who Montserrat is. It's just on your syllabus, knowing you could put all three of our offices. If you need extra assistance, these are the offices you may want to reach out to for certain resources. As you know, you may not have to list everything, but just put our names there. And some of the students already know who we are. And by just seeing that, it's like, oh, wow, they're connected with those offices. Okay, now I know where to go. So that also helps. And I've had professors say that they put it on their syllabus and students have reached out. And if there's a student in your class, lastly, that you see that was taking so long to get the book, reach out to me personally. The amount of faculty and professors that has emailed me and called me and I was able to get the students the books right away. I'm willing to go over and above just to make sure that these students get the resources. So don't be afraid of, give me a call or send me an email. We're here to help each other, buddy. We're in it to win it.
Margarita, you had a question a while back.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to respond to Ruth's question and in part what John brought up, a question that he had brought up. So I'm a first gen student. A zillion years ago, I was a vulnerable, underconfident first gen student roaming around on a college campus and completely not knowing what things were about and office hours, for example. And so what I know we're near end of time, but just from drawing from my experiences going to college and being very unprepared to navigate social, financial, and academic waters of college life, I would say, first of all, someone who from their family, very few people had gone on to higher education. And so they didn't get any prepping from their family. So it's as if you can imagine a fish totally out of water, totally out of element, and the hypersensitivity of that fish, right? Basically the first gen person of, oh, I didn't understand I was supposed to get books by first week of classes. I'm still trying to figure out what classes to enroll in, or my financial aid hasn't come through yet, so I can't sign up for all those classes. So there's the academic side, but then also financial side. So think fish out of water, totally vulnerable, right? So in your classes, maybe one way, Ruth, I was thinking about your question, how do you get to speak with them and have them come to your office hours and seek the help that they so obviously may need? Something that's kind of worked for me, I don't know if it works for other people, is I kind of think about my classroom space as my home, and that I am there to welcome every single person, whether they're from Asia, whether they're from Kenya, whether they're first gen, whether they've gone 10 generations of their family has gone to Ivy League, I don't really care. My task is to make everyone feel welcome and that they belong. So secondly, so almost every other class session, somewhere during the class session, I'll say, oh yeah, here are my office hours again. They're Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, da-da-da-da-da. If you can't make it, absolutely send me an email or come talk to me and we'll figure out a time when we can meet in person, or you can hop on Zoom with me and we can have a conversation. So always reaching out. Sending an announcement is great, but when they see you up in front of the room or to the side of the room, when they hear and see you inviting them over and over again, then it kind of gets through to a lot of them that, hey, you're really serious. You're sincere, you're reaching out to them, you're welcoming them, you're extending the home base to your office. Come and speak with me because I'm always available there, whether you're American, Caucasian, whether you're from South America, I really don't care in terms of where you're from, or if you're first gen or fourth or fifth gen. The other thing I was thinking of was the notion of the first gen student is so, at least in my experience anyways, is struggling with so many layers of challenges, confusion, complexities. I would say the academic and financial, those are the straightforward, explicit ones that can be addressed by Montserrat or Ahana or counseling pretty quickly and easily. The other things, the navigating of the social, the dynamics between students and professors, like going to knock at the professor's office and absolutely thinking, oh, I'm totally interrupting and imposing myself on this scholar's very valuable time. And I'm probably going to ask stupid questions that the rest of my classmates won't ask because they're actually educated and I'm not. So those sorts of things running. And I think maybe one of the other facilitators talked about that, the imposter, not feeling like you belong because maybe one, you look very different from everyone else. Number two, when you speak, you say things or ask things that are kind of peculiar or different from other classmates' questions. So you kind of self-mark yourself when you open your mouth, which may mean for some first-generation students, they will try never to open their mouth to self-identify themselves as either, oh, they're gonna think I'm an ignorant foreigner person who shouldn't be here anyways, right? So those are just my thoughts off the top of my head of, what could a first-generation person, even if you're not visibly a minority or a foreigner, what could a first-generation student be experiencing when they're going through these first weeks of the academic year, and how could you change things in your approach to make them feel less like fish out of their element? Like, and when I say out of their element, I'm saying gasping for oxygen and air out of their element. And they're reaching out with an oxygen tank. The welcoming and the constant inviting is a way to offer them oxygen, right? You're out of your element, but you are still welcome. And here's a lifeline. Over and over again, here's a lifeline. That's all.
I want to thank our three presenters and conveners today. I've got a lot of new ideas and information, so thank you very much. We're meeting again online. The next Zoom meeting of this group is on Thursday, October 14th at 1. And that session is called Socioeconomic Factors Shaping the First Gen and Montserrat Students. And Bert Howell, whom several of you mentioned, will be convening that meeting. So I want to thank you for being part of this today. And also, if you have any ideas about how to make this go more smoothly or more effectively, please send them to me. I'll be glad to talk with you or get your input. And I wish you a wonderful Parents' Weekend. I think it's going to be crazy on campus this weekend.
Yes.
So have a good weekend, everybody, and stay well, okay?
You too, Mark. Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. Thanks.